Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. Thank you for this.
Yes, yes.
I had a very unusual experience last year. I'd like to share it with you.
All right.
It was after I was watching videos on the website Bashar TV. In particular, I had left off on the section entitled "Death and Afterlife." I was watching all your videos about that, and my uncle later on that week, my uncle passed away.
All right.
And so I was in a truck. We were leaving the Black Rock Desert whenever I got this text message from my dad saying my uncle passed away. And after thinking about the things you were saying, I I immediately decided I was going to invite my uncle to communicate with me in some way. And so I spent a moment or two, and about an hour goes by. We're going down the road, and the driver was pointing to how low the lake was on the right, and neither one of us saw that there were four cows in the road, and we smashed into four cows going almost full speed, and had I basically had like a near death experience is what it felt like. I had feared for my life for a split second. And so it, is it possible that my uncle Steve was involved in the way that scenario unfolded?
Well, not in the sense that he placed the cows in front of you, if that's what you mean,
Well, that's reassuring.
but in the sense that he gave you an opportunity to utilize what you're calling a near death experience to know that you are more strongly now connected to the idea of spirit by giving you an opportunity to not pay attention to what was there momentarily so that you could be given the opportunity to experience a stronger connection to spirit briefly.
Excellent. Yeah.
At the same time, at the same time, it is pay attention to your physical surrounding because you could easily transition into spirit in the way that he did if you don't pay attention to what's going on right in front of your face.
All right. All right.
Now, I'm going to, well, he's going to make light of this situation a little bit by letting you know that all in all, it sort of wound up being a moving experience.
Definitely, it definitely was.
Well, that comes directly from him.
All right.
But pay
Um,
attention to your surroundings because it's very easy when you don't do so to transition back into spirit. But you were given a choice to stay or go back, and you chose to go back because you weren't done.
wow.
So, again, being that this person seems to love the idea of humor and puns, now that he's on the other side in a different way, he would suggest that if you're going to choose to stay in physical reality, that you milk it for all it's worth.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. I will definitely do that.
All right.
So,
Does that help you?
it definitely does. It's been on my mind for months now. This is
All right.
September. This happened.
All right.
Something that I'm fascinated to watch on the internet is people with Tourette's syndrome
Yes.
that do all sorts of funny things. Is this a type of channeling?
It's a type of short circuiting. It's an attempt to connect into a channeling state, but there's some short circuiting going on.
I see. For somebody who says that they're struggling with it, that they want them to go away, like how do they take ownership of this? How do they move forward from that?
Well, it will depend upon the person. There are any number of reasons why a person may have connected to this particular kind of an experience, and therefore you would have to have a more specific understanding of the specific person that's experiencing it and how they can deal with it in a different way. But in general, similar to the idea of epilepsy, it requires a coordination and harmonization of the different aspects of the left and right hemispheres of the brain through the center of the brain, the corpus callosum. So certain kinds of energy exercises or meditations that involve shifting your focus between the left and right hemispheres of the brain and centering the energy in the center of the brain in the corpus callosum can be of some assistance to some people. But of course, again, it depends upon the reasons why they may have chosen to have this kind of an experience.
Awesome, awesome. My other fun question is it possible or is it likely in our future that we'll connect our internet to other worlds or other timelines? of Earth.
Well, yes, although it won't be the internet as you know it now.
Okay.
But the idea of your exploration into quantum computing can make the connection to parallel realities possible.
Wow. Very, very cool. And then just one last thing. Do the hybrid children spend any time on TikTok?
A few of them have observed several things that exist on your internet for their educational purposes, but again, they don't spend much time.
All right. Thank you so much, Bashar.
You're welcome.
Hi, Bashar. My name is Shauna, and I live in Salem, New Hampshire. I have been in dialogue with you on a few occasions around the topic of the inner child. Most recently, we have discussed the false self. From what I understand, the false self is a personality that I created and that I project that experiences some limitations that are represented of the challenges I agreed to face, overcome, transform, and move closer to my true self. I also understand that we create a false self as a defense mechanism to protect the inner, more vulnerable true self and to help the child feel accepted and safe and to preserve their attachment to the original caregivers, mom, the parents. So I have a few questions. And I feel intuitively that I already know what the answer to these questions are, but I'm going to put them out there anyway. So first, do we come into physical reality with a structure of beliefs already in place? In that structure of beliefs that we bring into physical reality, can they contain already negative, fear-based, or limiting beliefs, or are those created explicitly through our early childhood programming and conditioning? And my last question is, I understand that the real true self holds all of my beliefs based in positivity, love, and expansion. So am I to believe that the false self holds at its core all of the beliefs based in fear, negativity, and limitation? Thank you so much, Bashar. Aveo.
First of all, the true self is not negatively vulnerable in the way that you mean that. You might have created an inner child self that can experience negative vulnerability, but the true self is never negatively vulnerable. So there's no protection required for the true self. You're only protecting the self that you're referring to as the false self. Yes, you can come in with a belief system structure that is representative of the challenges you've agreed to face, and therefore many of them may already be negative in the terms of the programming that you're referring to. Some of them may be enhanced by the idea of the environment that you have also been born into, the parents, the schooling, the friends, the family, so on and so forth. So it can be a mix of things. But yes, it can come in with the idea of having certain parameters, certain limitations pre-programmed so that you will face the challenges that you agreed to face. It can be a mix of these different things. But again, the idea is that the true core self, the true core vibration is what guides you to examine and explore all these belief systems and limitations you have imposed upon yourself with agreements, one way or another, to allow you to break free from them and align the idea of your belief systems with the true core self, with the positive inner child, not the one that feels negatively vulnerable, and that the idea of the false, as you're referring to it, false self, can have a core of its own that carries these belief systems forward so that you will ensure that you will experience the challenges that you agreed to face. But they're not the same as the core, true vibrations of your essential being. It's simply what might be referred to as the collective programming for the challenges that you decided to face.
Bashar, thank you so much for taking my questions today.
Yes?
So I would like to ask you today about my childhood near-death experience.
All right.
At the age of 7, I had a near-death experience, and I've come to understand that I was looking down at myself from an out-of-body experience.
Yes.
And while I was in that state, it was like I was surrounded by quicksilver or mercury, and a hand of a woman came out of everywhere and materialized over my eyes. And then another, like it was all mercury or quicksilver, and then another hand came over my solar plexus, and then it was like I got pulled up with a snap and a pop from my solar plexus, and then I couldn't see anything. But there was a discussion about how painful and prolonged it was all going to be, and am I sure I want to go back? And
Yes.
I said that I did.
Yes. These kinds of conversations with spirit guides are relatively typical in certain cases of near death.
So was I taken to the blue planet then?
No. You stayed in the electromagnetic energy of spirit and were given an opportunity to decide whether you wanted to move on or whether you wanted to go back to physical reality.
If I had chosen to stay dead, would I have gone to the blue planet, or would I have just died?
Well, what do you mean just died? Just died means you have choices to do other things. One of them could have been the choice to go to a blue planet, but you decided to come back to Earth, which is also considered a blue planet.
Oh, I mean the planet of the blue people.
Yes, you could have chosen that, but you knew that you had chosen originally to be on Earth for specific reasons, and therefore you wanted to finish that so you wouldn't have to necessarily repeat it.
Okay. So that brings me to the other part of this question, which is about when people use the term walk-ins. That is a misnomer, right? Because obviously my body is just the most crystallized part of my energy, right?
Yes.
There is no
Yes.
somebody else using my left hand while I use the rest of my body.
No, the idea of a walk-in is simply a shift in the awareness of the soul and the ability to express more of the individual soul through that physical form. It's not a different person coming in. The personality may shift to seem like a different person because personality is an artificial construct, and therefore it can be accurate to say it's a different person because that's the projection, but the soul is simply expressing more of itself. It's the same original soul.
Right, of course. But from the human society's aspect, they call you a walk-in because you kind of don't fit, right? Like from their side of view,
Yes.
it's like, well, we killed you fair and square. What are you doing here? Get lost, right? We don't have space for you anymore.
Well, no, but of course the idea is that you do have space because it is necessary and timely for that being to express more of its soul because that can be of greater service to the society, even if the society rejects it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the key there. Society does not compatible though. You're not compatible with the other
Well,
people.
that's not always the case. Most walk-ins, in the sense that we're explaining it, are perfectly compatible. It's just the ones that happen to stand out as more different that become seemingly less compatible, even though, of course, there's a reason why they're there and expressing themselves that way, even though people may not get it. But there's more walk-ins and more shifting than you may think. It's just that most of them are compatible with the timing of having done so.
Right. So in terms of when you said in the mirror reflections transmission, somebody said
Yes.
that they broke their jaw, and
Yes.
you said that the purpose of that for them was to accelerate their shifting.
Yes.
And you said that sort of to me about my situations as well.
Yes.
The when you say accelerate the shifting, do you just mean making bigger changes in less time?
Yes. In other words, many people will create what appear to be accidents because it abruptly kicks them into a new understanding and a new perspective and accelerates their ability to move forward in a slightly different way, or maybe even a profoundly different way.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bashar. I appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure. Thank you. Good day.
Hello, Bashar. Thank you for the co-creation. This is Ishan from Australia. I have a question regarding to our memories. So my question is, why do we have memories and what does that serve to us? And I know the time is always now, but is that a side effect of having our so-called space and time in our dimension? Thank you. Bye.
Yes, it is. Because memories are created in the present, no matter what they represent about the so-called past, because the past is an illusion. Nevertheless, from a linear perspective, it gives you the opportunity to learn from something that you consider to be the past. It allows you to grow in a linear way. So you have created the concept of memory to create continuity for yourselves in the illusion of time and space, so that you can see a progression of change which allows you to discover something about yourself that is new.
Hello.
And to you, good day.
Thank you for having me, Bashar.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Okay, so I feel like the final splits for 2020 are one where Trump wins and one where the other part wins.
There are always alternate realities with things that happen that don't happen in yours. Always.
Okay.
And there are different versions of all of them in different realities. It's not just two. There are many, many realities with different versions of both of those scenarios and other scenarios that have nothing to do with what you experienced, of course.
I want to know what are the chances that I will shift to the reality where Trump actually wins. What would improve my chances to shift to that reality? Because right now I would like to quit my job in another city, although I have another stable income at this time.
Your communication is breaking up, which is an indication that your vibration is breaking up and is not consistent within yourself. Remember that you can shift wherever you wish to as long as you are in a vibrational state that promotes the shift. Whether that be a negative state or a positive state is up to you. But the idea is you will shift according to whatever vibration you create within yourself based on your belief systems and whether or not those belief systems are fear-based or joy-based.
Okay, is my communication okay now?
At the moment, it is.
Okay, so before the age of 7, I was hybridized by the grace, and that involved some work at the root chakra.
Yes, yes.
What is happening is that in any apartment building, I cannot properly rest at night because there is a location where multiple people are living in the apartments around me. So
why don't you move?
Well,
so why don't you move?
I move. If I move, I need to move somewhere in nature, basically.
So why don't you? What's stopping you?
Well, I need to have some comfort. I mean, it would be expensive.
What makes you think you won't?
I mean, I actually bought a car and to make it as a camper van.
You are breaking up again. It's important for you to understand that this is not just a technological glitch. It's a reflection of your own energy.
I know.
You're not coherent within yourself because you are creating too many details that you think you have to work to put together instead of allowing the flow of your life to lead you and guide you in an automatic way. You are imposing too many limiting belief systems on yourself about what you think you need in order to experience what it is that you prefer in life. You don't need that many beliefs about it. You don't need to do as much as you think you need to do. You need to allow yourself to know that if there is something impeding your ability to be where it is you prefer to be, that it's only your belief system that is impeding it. Your definition of what you think you need is too narrow, and you need to broaden it.
Okay then.
So, what is it you think you need at this moment in your belief system in order to go and move somewhere where you prefer in a way that is comfortable for you? What do you think at this point is lacking that prevents you from being able to do that?
The financial means to have the...
Aha! So you're only focused on the idea that the only way you can achieve this is through the concept you call money?
Well, I will need to have the equipment to provide heat and warm.
And what makes you think there aren't other ways to get that?
Well, I would be alone in nature, basically.
So what?
So
what makes you think there aren't other ways for you to get that?
Well, that's the issue, basically, because actually it's a paradox. I feel like being...
All right, we understand. But here's what perhaps will help you understand what we are saying. There are many forms of support, many forms of abundance. Money on your planet may be one symbol, but it's only one symbol. Being given a gift is a symbol of abundance. Having something to trade with someone is a symbol of abundance to get what you need. Synchronicity is a symbol of abundance. Imagination is a symbol of abundance. Communication is a symbol of abundance, because all these things can allow you to experience a flow of receiving the support you need when you need it, in perfect timing, in the form in which you need it, to be able to continue to act on your highest passion. You have to make room for all the forms of abundance to be equally capable of coming into your life. But if you focus only on one as being the only one that's more important, the only one that can get you where you need to be, you're actually closing the doors through all the other ways in which abundance can come to you in these different forms. In many cases, in many circumstances, in many situations, sometimes different forms of abundance have to work together in order to give you the 100% abundance that you need to move forward. So sometimes it might be that a small amount of money will come into your life, but if no more comes in that allows you to do what you need to do, that would be your first clue that some other form of abundance may need to come in to join it. And maybe another form of abundance will come in and join that. And then all together, those different forms, those different expressions of abundance and support will then give you what you need. So maybe in some circumstances, it will be a little bit of money, a little bit of somebody giving you something you need, a little bit of being able to trade with somebody for something that you need, or your imagination will open up and go, oh, there's a different way I can do this. And so by doing it a different way, I may not need what I think I need right now, or I'll get it along another path that I haven't imagined before. You have to be open to all these forms of abundance to truly be supported in your passion in life. And then you will see that as it flows, it will flow you exactly in the correct direction, and you'll wind up exactly where you need to be, when you need to be there. That supports you in the best possible way to allow you to continue to act on your excitement. But you can't have any insistence that it must look a certain way, because the real truth is you have no idea what the ideal outcome for you actually should look like. You just have to trust that the ideal outcome will unfold in the way that serves you best. Is this making some sense?
Yes,
Is this helping?
very much.
All right. So practice relaxing your insistence on focusing on only one definition of abundance and support, and you will start allowing yourself to perceive through synchronicity other forms of abundance magically coming in. And then you will see your path more clearly.
Okay, so you said you cannot shift to a vastly different reality.
I didn't say that. I simply said you cannot shift to one that's not relevant for you.
Okay, you said you cannot shift to a reality if you don't know you can shift to that reality, or something like this.
In a sense, yes, you have to know that it's possible, but you also have to understand what's probable, what's relevant for the theme that you chose to explore. As, in a sense, this version of you, this version of you, this version of you, this version of you. The theme can span many different versions, but you have to understand that some things are simply not relevant for the theme that you chose to explore. Some things are. So sometimes you can experience what appears to be an amazingly large shift into a very different reality, and many times you will simply experience something that seems like a little bit of a difference. That's more common. I'm not saying you can't experience a greater shift, but again, you have to A, know that that's possible, and you have to also know that that's relevant for you.
I understand. My last question.
Yes.
Having the year 2012 as a reference point, what percentage of the souls on Earth have shifted their focus on this reality, and how many are focused in a different reality, like where the humans are different?
All right. Well, again, you're asking kind of a segregational question because you're never on the same Earth. But we understand what you mean and what you're asking. From the idea of a focal point that you're calling 2012, now that you are arriving at the inverse 2021, you've inverted those last two numbers, you may find that if you want some kind of an average comparison, we perceive that many people have allowed themselves to shift somewhere around 12 to 15, maybe some as high as 20%.
Okay. Okay then.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
We thank you. Our unconditional love and support to you. Good day.
Good day.